speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back.
Hello and welcome back to the Lone Road iRacing podcast with me, Guy Robertson. This week we're not chasing lap time, we're chasing something far more important, and something most iRacers don't even realise is costing them results week after week. We're talking about your and mine mental edge, your focus, your decision making, your physical condition, and how all of that comes together or falls apart over the course of a race. Because I'll bet this has happened to you. You've practiced, you've clearly got the pace, you jump into a race feeling confident, maybe even quietly thinking this could be a good one. Green light, strong start, clean through lap 1, and you settle in. You find your rhythm. And then somewhere around lap 6, lap 7, suddenly something changes. Not dramatically, but in a way that jumps out to you. And you start to feel it. The edges start to blur. A braking point, slightly off. A corner exit, not quite as clean as you have been doing them. A hesitation when a car appears in your mirror. And slowly, the race begins to drift away from you. Now here's the key point. That's not a pace issue. That's not even a setup issue. That's a focus and decision making issue. And today we're going to unpack all of it. We're going to look at why concentration fades even when you feel fine, how your decisions change under pressure and fatigue, the hidden role of your body, your sleep, your diet and your energy levels, and how to build real mental resilience when races start to go wrong. And at the end, we've got a brilliant iRacing Agony Uncle question all about the reporting system, something every driver should properly understand. So, listeners and viewers, get settled in, because this episode might not make you faster on paper, but it might make you finish higher every single week. So let's get into it. Let's start with focus, because this is the part of racing that nobody really talks about, yet it's quietly deciding most race results. We tend to think of pace as this fixed ability. You're either quick or you're not, but that's not really true. Most drivers have pace. What they don't have is the ability to hold it. And that's where focus comes in. That's about what your brain is doing during a race. You're not just driving, you're processing constantly. Where am I braking? How's the grip compared to the last lap? Is the car ahead struggling? Is someone behind setting something up? And what's happening on the relative? It's relentless. And here's the thing. Your brain isn't built to maintain that level of intensity forever. It starts to fatigue. Quietly, subtly, and when it does, the first thing drops isn't speed, it's precision. You miss an apex by a fraction. You brake a meter too late. You hesitate on throttle. Tiny losses, but they build. And that's why you can go from feeling completely in control to suddenly wondering why everything feels slightly off. And by the time you notice it properly, you're already losing time, or worse, making mistakes. That's why focus isn't just about getting in the zone. It's about staying there longer than everybody else. Because in most races, the driver who holds their focus the longest wins. Now let's layer decision making on top of that. Because racing isn't just about execution, it's about choice. Every corner, every situation, you're making decisions. Some are planned, your braking point for example, your line and even your strategy. But some and most are probably more reactive, avoiding incidents, choosing when to defend and spotting danger. And then there's the third category, the dangerous one, emotional decisions. This is where racers fall apart. I'm quicker, therefore I need to get past now. They squeeze me, I'm not backing out. There's a gap, I'm going for it. And in that moment, it feels right. But when you look back later, it just doesn't add up. Because those decisions weren't made with clarity. They were made with your and mine emotions. And here's what fatigue does. It reduces our ability to evaluate and increases tendency to react. So instead of thinking, is it worth it? You think, I'm going. And that's the difference. The best iRacers aren't just fast. They're selective. They choose their moments. They understand risk. And they understand consequence. And most importantly, they understand that sometimes the smartest move is the one you haven't yet made. Now we're going to zoom back out a little, because everything we've just talked about doesn't start in the sim. It starts with you and me, and our bodies and our energy. Your condition before you even hit the track, and this is something so many iRacers overlook. Let's start with food. If you're jumping into a race straight after a heavy meal, your body is busy. It's digesting, which means less energy is available for your brain. Less sharpness, slower reactions. Now add in sugar. Quick spike followed by a crash. When does that crash hit? Usually mid-race, when you really need it most. Exactly when you need focus. What about hydration? Massively underestimated. Even slight dehydration affects cognitive performance. And you don't feel it dramatically, you just feel a bit off. A bit slower, a bit less sharp, and that's enough. Sleep. Now, this is a big one. Racing tired is like adding delay to your brain. Your reaction's slow, your judgment softens. You take risks you wouldn't normally take. Or you miss things you'd usually spot instantly. And then there's movement. Even something as simple as getting up, stretching, walking around before a race, it wakes your system up. And it primes what's inside our skulls, our brains. And that shows itself not at the start of a race, but when others begin to fade. Now let's talk about when things go wrong. And guess what? We've all experienced it. Nobody's a perfect iRacer. Things go wrong because they always do. You make a mistake and instantly your mindset shifts. You go from calm to feeling frustrated, from focused to distracted, and suddenly your internal voice changes too. That's ruined it. Why did I do that? And come on. And now your focus is no longer on driving, it's on the mistake. And that's the start of the spiral. Mistake kicks in frustration, kicks in more mistakes, and kicks in race gone. And it happens just like that, and very fast. But again, what do the best drivers do? They interrupt it. They don't pretend the mistake didn't happen, but they don't carry it either. They reset. What's next? What can I still get from this race? And that shift is everything, because now you're back in control. And often the best driving comes after a mistake, because the pressure drops, the expectations reset, and you drive with clarity again. Okay, before we head into the second half of today's podcast, a quick word from the sponsor, Outlap. We're having a quick pause here to mention our sponsor, Outlap, who are supporting the podcast. Outlap is built around the side of sim racing we don't talk about enough. The focus, the preparation, and mental work that happens long before the race actually starts. It's not about hype or loud designs, it's about process, patience, and showing up ready, whether that's in the rig or stepping away from it. If that side of sim racing resonates with you, you'll find Outlap quietly ticking along in the background. I want to thank Outlap again for sponsoring the podcast, and the link to their sim racing apparel store is in the show notes. Now, let's go even deeper, because losing focus isn't random. It follows a pattern. Think of your brain like a battery. Every decision drains it. Every moment of awareness uses energy. And the tricky part, there's no warning light. Instead, it shows up in behaviour. You stop scanning mirrors, you rush corners, and you react instead of anticipate. Then comes good old autopilot. An autopilot, he's not smart. It repeats patterns, even bad ones. So if you make a mistake, Mr. Autopilot often makes you repeat it. Same corner, same issue, and you're left thinking, how have I done that again? And that is fatigue. And the key isn't to avoid it completely, it's to recognise it early and reset before it costs you. Let's make this practical. I want you to start using a simple framework in races. Give it a try. Risk, reward, consequence. Before any move, ask yourself, what's the risk? What's the reward? And what's the worst case outcome? Because most bad moves aren't misjudged, they're unquestioned. Now let's add some context. Lap 1, we all know it's chaotic. Final lap, usually there's an opportunity. Who are you racing? Aggressive driver, or a predictable driver, or an erratic driver? Good drivers read other drivers, and they build patterns. They anticipate, and that's where racing becomes controlled and not reactive. And here's the key tool: the pause. Half a second. Basically, that's all it takes. That tiny moment stops emotion and lets logic back in. We're going to bring a little structure into this now. Stop thinking of races as one long block. Break them up into phases. Phase 1, as we know, is early in the race. Just survive. Lap 1 to 3, we all know it's going to be chaotic, so avoid it. Let others make those mistakes and get tangled up in other people's mistakes. Phase 2 of the race is what I'm calling settle. This is where you find your rhythm. Protect focus, stay consistent. And then there is phase 3, which is the execute phase. And this is carried out in the last third of the race, in the final laps. Now you decide, push or protect. This structure does two things. It simplifies your thinking and it preserves your focus. Because instead of worrying about the whole race, you're only focused on the current phase, and that becomes manageable. Let's finish this main section with something you can take away immediately. Building a routine. It's not superstition. Consistency is what it brings. 30 minutes before, hydrate and stretch. 10 minutes before, remove distractions such as mobile phones or let family know you're about to start a race. When you're on the grid, breathe and visualize going into the first corner. These 3 small actions tell your brain something. 1, we're ready to race, and over time, the routine becomes a trigger. You sit down, you go through the motions, and your focus switches on. And that's powerful, because now you're not starting cold, you're starting prepared. Well, listeners and viewers, I hope you enjoyed the main section of today's podcast. We've all been there thinking, why do I lose concentration, or why do I seem to fade later on in races? So hopefully this has given you a bit of a regime and some ideas to help you set yourself a mini routine to get you focused and maintain it for better results, whether they're IR or SR. We'll be back in a second for this week's Agony Uncle question. We'll be right back. Right, listeners and viewers, let's move into this week's iRacing Agony Uncle. And this one comes from Steve, who's written into the show, and he says he's a pretty new iRacer, still finding his feet and still learning the ropes, but trying to do things the right way. Now Steve says, I consider myself a clean and fair driver, but I've been involved in my fair share of incidents, some my fault and some not. None of them intentional, mostly just newbie mistakes, and we've all been there. He carries on and says, I've heard you talk about the iRacing reporting system and I'd like to understand it better. So 3 questions he's set the show. Does iRacing take all reports seriously? How and when would I be contacted if someone reported me? And is there a penalty ranking system? Steve, first of all, brilliant question. And more importantly, I love the mindset. You're not blaming others straight off the bat. You're not dismissing incidents. You're trying to understand the system and improve. That right there is exactly how you progress in iRacing. So let's break this all down properly. Question 1. Does iRacing take all reports seriously? The short answer is yes. Every report submitted gets reviewed. But, and this is really important, they're not looking to punish every incident. iRacing understands that racing sometimes isn't easy and it gets a bit messy. Mistakes happen, misjudgments happen, and racing incidents happen. What they're really looking for is intentional wrecking, retaliation, dangerous or reckless patterns of behaviour, poor rejoins, and clear breaches of the sporting code. So if you've made a genuine mistake, locked a brake, misjudged a gap, slight contact, basically that's just racing. That's not what the system is designed to punish. And this is the key takeaway for you, Steve, and other listeners and viewers. The reporting system isn't there to catch mistakes, it's there to catch behaviours. Question 2. How and when would you or I be contacted if reported? Now this is where it can feel a little bit confusing, especially for newer drivers, because sometimes you hear nothing at all. So here's how it works in general terms. If somebody reports you, the incident is reviewed by iRacing. They assess whether it breaches the sporting code. Now, if no action is required, you probably won't hear anything. And I would say within 3 days you would have heard something if you have been reported and they want to take it further. But that silence can make you wonder, was I reported? Did they look at it? Most likely, yes they did. They've just decided it didn't warrant any action. Now, if action is taken, that's when you'll hear something on your email. Typically it will come as an email or a notification within the system, but personally I haven't actually seen one of those come through the system. And they could range from just a warning, a coaching style message, or something more serious depending on the situation. So a really important bit of a reassurance here is no message usually means no problem. And don't forget, these reports can be sporting code related to verbal messages on voice or in the chat, and or behaviour, intentional wrecking for example, in the sim. Final question from Steve, is there a penalty ranking system? Now officially there's no public point system like you try and see and probably see in real world racing. You're not sat there with a visible tally of penalties for example, but behind the scenes there is a form of escalation. Think of it more like a ladder. If behaviour is repeated or clearly against the rules, it builds, and on your profile that iRacing keep tabs on. Typically it goes something like level 1, just a warning, level 2, stronger warning or some coaching advice. Level 3, temporary suspension. Level 4, longer suspensions for repeat or serious offences. And this is important, Steve. It's not about one mistake. We all do those regularly. It's about patterns of behaviour. So if you're a new driver making occasional errors, that's expected. That's part of learning and becoming part of the iRacing community. What matters is, are you improving? Are you racing fairly? And are you showing awareness? Now, with my own experience, 5 years on the service now, this word sorry usually can stop a report also. If you made a mistake, own it, apologise, and even suggest looking at the replay together after the event when people have calmed down a little, and maybe just that conversation itself will help stop you being reported. So Steve, here's what I'd like to say to you. Don't be afraid of the reporting system. Respect it, understand it, and don't fear it. Focus on learning from incidents, improving your awareness, driving predictably and cleanly. And if you do that, you won't need to worry about reports, because the goal here isn't to avoid being reported. It's to become the kind of driver that other drivers trust to race alongside. And that is when iRacing really starts to open up. So, to bring all today's things to a close, here we go. iRacing isn't just about speed. It's about focus, decisions, preparation and resilience. And the next time you're in a race and things start to slip, take that pause. Check yourself. Where is your focus? What decisions are you making? Are you reacting or are you in control? Because often the difference between a frustrating race and a great result is just a handful of better decisions, made with a slightly clearer mind. I've been Guy Robertson, and this has been the Lone Road iRacing podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you on the grid soon. And don't forget to say hello. Happy iRacing, I'll see you next week.
Whatever it takes, we're racing, we're in the zone. Whatever it takes, we push hard, never alone. I'm in the cockpit, the engines roar, hear me now. We're racing circles, got a hustle made a vow. Chasing victory, it's all or nothing on the track. Speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back. Whatever it takes.